Okay, Rabbi Sai, we're up to the new parak, the third parak. Collapse. Now, if it sounds familiar, it is familiar. The last parak was Kol Zevachim, was the different avoidus. This is going to focus on the shchita. This is going to focus on shchita. So it's a very straightforward daf, and the Bez Hashem will do well. Says the Mishnah, Kol psulin sheshachtu, any psulin that is shachtu, a puzzle, shchitas and kshera. So any puzzle, as we can see in a minute, the shchit is kasha. As we know, the shchit is kasha bizarre. We know the shchit is kasha bizarre. Sheshchit kshera bizarim, a non-kayin, ubinashim, women, ubavadim, avad even kananim, ubitimeim, chiddush. That's we're going to focus on that, even timeim. Vafilu b'kasha kedashim, and even by kodesh kedashim, which shchita has to be in the north. Ubelvad shaloyi tameim noigim b'basa. Provide what? The tameim don't go ahead and touch the basa. Let's see Rashi on tameim. Tameim b'tamei sheretz come. I was speaking about tamei sheretz, which is what? Harav shemesh. Sheina b'tama kli. Because it's a sheretz cannot be mitama. If a person touches a sheretz, fellas, he's a rishon. So a rishon can only be tama oichelu mashka. A rishon can't be tama adam kalim. Because if you have a problem, if the person's an avatuma, he's going to be tama the knife. So therefore, Rashi gives us a little addendum here. It's speaking she'ena mitama kli the lava avatumahu. Oi, it's either speaking mitama mace. We're going sheboda krumia shalkana. He went ahead and made sure it was smooth, a reed, a very sharp reed. V'shachet he used it. And therefore, even though he's an Av HaTumah, nonetheless, the reed itself doesn't have a Torah's Kli. And in Mela, the reed is not, therefore, it's not either one of two things. It's either speaking a Rishon Tumah, or if it's an Av HaTumah, nonetheless, what? It's not a Kli. Ava B'sakin loy. Shu Mitam Es Sakin. And what would happen then? V'sakin Mitam Es Abasa. We're going to oven Sakin Aricha V'shachat. So the bottom line is, if he's Tamei, how in the world can he come into the Azara? And the answer is he's shechting with a long knife. And we're going to see 2 days in the Gemara, if it's B'diavad or Lichatchila. We're going to see 2 days in the Gemara. And that's going to be a part of the share. Lefikach, therefore, Ubavad, Bavashli Tmeim Nagim Basa. Lefikach, Hein Poiston B'machshava. As we saw this Chiddush, therefore, if they have a machshava, they can passel the carbon, even though they're not kahanim. And even though they can't do the avoida, they would passel. The kulan shekiblu es adam, and any of the psulim that's makabel the dam. Rashi says al menas lechol or hakti achutz l'zmanoi achutz l'mkaimoi. So they have a machshava of pigol b'shas kabbalah. Yesh dam nefesh. If you have dam nefesh, yachse hakosher, let a kosher go ahead and be makabel, be yakabel. So in other words, the chiddush is that the psul that's makabel the dam, it doesn't say, oh, it's over with, right? No, this dam I can't use, but if I have other dam, that I could. So no, it's not a game ender. It's not a game ender. The game is still on. The game is still on. Kibul akasha v'nasan lipsul. Let's say the kasha is makabel, so everything's great right now. However, v'nasan lipsul, he then gives it over to someone who's pasul. Yachsil the kasha, give it back to the kasha again, not a game ender. Kibul be aminoi, the kayin v'nasan l'smailoi, and that has to be avoid has to be done with the right hand. Yachsil l'mino, just because it put it in the left hand, right? Just return it to your right hand. Kibul b'kli kodesh, v'nasan l'kli chol. You makabel l'kli kodesh, and then put in kli chol. Yachsil l'kli kodesh. I don't know why it says kli kodesh rather than kli shares. I guess versus chol. Nishbach min akli al ritzpa. Okay, this we know. Again, all this is Baruch Hashem. We know this. If it falls from the kli on the ritzpa, not directly from the tsar of the animal, but there was a kabbalah, the asvai, kasha. So let's say the puzzle, the chur was makabel. It fell on the floor, and the kasha was ma'asefit. It would be kasha. I think so. I think so. You know what? So nishbachli ala ritzva v'asvai kasha. Nasne agabe kevesh. If the puzzle puts it on in the wrong spot, he puts it on the ramp. Shaloi kenegad yisoid, or he puts it on the corners of the mizbeach, not opposite the yisoid. Or nasanes aniton lamata lamaila, or he puts an animal that's supposed to be below the chut sikra, above the chut sikra, or v'esanitanim l'mayla l'mata, or the one that should be above, it should be below. V'esanitanim b'fnim b'chutz, or he puts one that should be inside, outside. V'esanitanim b'chutz b'fnim. And yesh dam nefesh yachsa kosher v'yakabel. In all these cases, if there's dam nefesh, he goes back what? And he's makabel. Yachsa and nefesh makabel. Okay, let's see the last Rashi here. Let's see the last Rashi. Yachsa kosher v'yakabel. So now, outside, before we see the Rashi, Nasan, we had the sugya. Nasan, we had the sugya of, what was the sugya? In Orha Aliyah is Ka'aliyah, right? And then we had the sugya of, if you did a zrika shaloibim koimai, right? We said, and forget the Orha Aliyah for a second. Shmuel's din that if you put it shaloibim koimai, it's the basa can't be eaten, but it's alul l'baylam l'shem chayva, right? Because he held shaloibim koimai is kim koimai dami. That's where we're introduced to the sugya. So says Rashi here. Says Rashi, Yachse HaKoshev Yekabel, Isfirulon de Puzzle Oisa Shirayim. If you're going to say that someone who's puzzle can make Shirayim, meaning it was a good Zrika, Ashme'inan Haitana, the Shalobim Komo, Lav Kim Komo Dami. Lefikach Le Osan Shirayim. Okay, now it's an outside. Look, eye contact. Listen to what I just told you. To make Shirayim means that I can speak totally Yiddish now. if I again, Shirai means ibegububin, right? It means left over, right? So Memela, if I go ahead and I do a Zrika, I have Shirayim. But if I don't do a Zrika, it's not, there's no Shirayim, it's still blood. So now we're going to look at the two stadim over here. What does it mean over here? So if you hold Shaloibim Koimai, Lavim Koimai Dami, so it's Pashit, there's no Shirayim. So go back, take the blood, whatever extra you have, and use it. So that's the first sad. That the Tana holds that what? It does make Shirayim. Now, if you even spherele like Shmuel, the Shlobim Komo is Kim Komo Dami, so L'chayra, then, what does it do good to go back and do it again? After all, you did a Zrika. So what are you doing again? V'havile Zrika Gemura, Ba'adam Pasal, the Chiddush is, Ashminan the ain puzzle oisa shirayim. The chiddush is that, you know what? What's the second side? So a person, a zor, went ahead and put it on the kevesh, and really I hold that what it makes it shirayim. The chiddush over here is if a psul does that, a psul can't make it shirayim. Really, the zrika is a good zrika, but since it was psul that did it,
no shirayim. Correct.
So the two start them over here. If it's lavaisim kamid, it's easy. Pasha, there's no shrayim, and the chiddush of it. And if this is rika, still the chiddush is a psul can make the shrayim. Those are two start them. Rashi speaks out. Now the Mishnah said shachta. The lashon kol hapsulim shesh shachta. All psulim that slaughtered. That's a lashon b'di'eved. It doesn't say that they could, but it's a lashon b'di'eved. Shachtu di'eved in lechatchila loy. Urimini al yeshu stira. It says. V'shachat, the pasuk says, V'shachat es ben habakar lifnei Hashem v'ikrivu b'nei Aaron HaKahanim. So v'ikrivu b'nei Aaron HaKahanim is the lashon of Kabbalah. We said earlier that halacha is b'chal Kabbalah. V'ikrivu is lashon of halacha. V'ikrivu b'nei Aaron. So you see b'shas Kabbalah b'nei Aaron, but v'shachat you do not need b'nei Aaron. So therefore, l'chayr it's mashma that afilu b'di'eved. Uriminu v'shachat shchita shavis kshera shashchita kshera bizarim b'noshim b'avodim u'tameim v'afil b'kosher kedoshim ayena ela b'kahanim maybe only kahanim amit v'chi me'ein basa mechlal shnemar v'ato v'necha itcha tishmeru es kahan naschem l'chol devar hamizbeach yachal af shchita I might even shchita tamalema v'shachat es ben abakal l'fnei Hashem v'krivu as I just spoke out mikrivu mikabala v'elef mitzvah kahuna Limin ala shchita sheksher bizar, right? Sheksher b'chaladam. So question mark. It's mashma that lichatchila it's kosher b'chaladam. Yet you're saying what? Shachtu is what is b'di'eved. So you have a lashon from the limud over here into Koros Kahanim to the our Mishnah. After the Gemara, who adin da fil lichatchila? I feel lichatchila. So why do you learn shachtu? Mishum the kaboy lemisnei tmeim, because one of the psulim that you learned would be good is Tameim, the lechatchila loy, because Gezeira Shema Yigu Bibasa, Tana Sheshachtai. We learn Sheshachtai. So Be'emes, it's like Teres Kahanim, Shchitas Kasha Bizar. and be'emes, really, lichatchila, you could go ahead and do it. The Mishnah says sheshachtu, because there's one of the psulim that is b'di'evet. What is that? That's tmeim, because you're scared the tamei may come to go ahead and touch the basa. Okay, Fred the Gemara, the tamei di'evet shapet dummy. You tell me tamei di'evet is what is good? You tell me that tmeim is good? 1 second. The pasuk says, "V'samach yodei al roish ha'oila v'nirtza lo lechaper alav." V'samach, and it says v'shachat. So we know that tekiv smicha is shchita, and it says l'fnei Hashem. B'krivu b'nei Aaron akan. Shachat is b'nei Abaka l'fnei Hashem. Mas smicha b'tahirin, just like smicha, the people have to be tahar, because if he's tamei, he can't be in the azara, right? And l'fnei Hashem is mashma in the azara. Av shchita b'tahirim. So how can you tell me that b'di'evet, that what it's good? You see that what it's not good because he's not tahar. After going midrabanan, it's only drabanan. Midrabanan, you need guys. Midrabanan, you need lechatchila. B'di'evet, it's good. So this Gemara is like a smachta ba'alma. In other words, midrabanan, it's good. That really, I feel lechatchila, it's good. Midrabanan, that only b'di'evet. Now, Maishna Smicha. Now you have a kasha. So Smicha, you're telling me Taka has to be tar, but Shchita not. Yet take us me the Shchita. You're dealing l'chayr in the same thing, and you're playing one after the other. So you tell me clearly Smicha has to be tahirim. If you tell me you're out, right? 1 second. So what's the difference between Smicha and Shchita? What's the difference? Maishna Smicha dechsiv v'nei Hashem, and it's possible b'tamei Shchita nami hachsiv v'nei Hashem should also be possible. After the Gemara, Efshad the Ovid Sakin Arucha v'Shachin. It's possible to go ahead and make a long knife and do shchita, and it'll be l'fnei Hashem. For the Gemara, Smichanami Efshad the Ma'il Yodei v'Samach. Don't come into the Azara. Put your hands in the Azara. And if you put the hands in the Azara, in other words, bring the animal to the wall, stick your hands on the animal, and therefore you'll be Mekayim. So why can't you do that? And that Gemara answers, Bia b'miktsas. If you come in a little bit, shma bia. There's haste coming in, and if you come in, you chayiv karis. So therefore, there is no option for what smicha. So you want to know the difference between smicha and shchita? Shchita have an option. I could take a long knife and shech. Smicha, I have no option because even putting my hands in, that would be like putting myself in, and I would be chayiv karis. So therefore, smicha dafka b'tahirin and shchita afilu l'chatchila would be midrabanan. It's only. Okay. So this is the first lashon, and according to the first lashon, shchita would be kasha.
So would the long knife work?
Yeah, it would work.
It would work. Yeah, you just can't do. You just can't.
Yeah, I mean, l'chayra, that would be the only way that you could do it, and it's the only way. You're tamei, and you're speaking about a person that's tamei. So right now, it has to be to misheretz, or it has to be a very long.
Smicha.
It has to be a very long. Smicha is not ma'akev. Smicha is not ma'akev.
Oh, right. The shchita is good.
The smicha, in other words, smicha has to be tahirin, but shchita could be b'di'evet midarbanan b'tmeim. Okay. Now we're going to see a second opinion. Okay, that's going to be the opinion of Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda masli ibcha. Rav Chisda is masli the opposite. It says v'samach v'shachat. Now the first one was smicha b'tahirin. Here's the opposite. Ma shchita b'tahirin. Af smicha b'tahirin. Later Rav Chisda that taka shchita would not be good. Shchita would not be good. Maishna shchita, it's no good. D'chsil l'fnei Hashem on the base. Smicha nami ksiv l'fnei Hashem. Smicha also says what? L'fnei Hashem. Good. If smicha says l'fnei Hashem, then what? Then it should be good. So in other words, it should be no good. So you're telling me that what? You're telling me that in the first lashon it was shchita is good and smicha is not good. Here, the second lashon, smicha is good and shchita is not good. And you know the answer is nothing. You're going to hold bia b'miktzis loishmei bia, and therefore you can go ahead and do what and do that. And we're going to hold you can't shech with a long knife. Why? Because it's the opinion of a Tana who says you taka have to be in the azara for shchita. Okay, very geschmack. Okay. So, and for the Gemara, smicha is efshel l'mayel. You can put your hands in samech and do smicha, and I guess you must hold that what that bia b'miktzas lo yishmei bia. For the Gemara, Shchita Nami Efshad David Sakan Arucha V'Shachit. You can do a long knife and shech. Says some Hamani, who's the tan of that brisa, is Shimon Atemani he, who holds that you have to be in the Azora proper. The Tanya, it says V'Shachit has been a buckle of Hashem, V'lo Yashaychet of Hashem. The animal has to be Lefnei Hashem, but the Shaychet doesn't. That's the Tanakama. So therefore he can lose a long knife. Shimon Atemani Omer, Minayin Shehu Yodav Shal Shaychet Lefnim Min Nishchat. How do you know that the hands of the shaychet has to be inside lefnim min behema? So obviously it has to be in the azara, right? Listen to the way he teaches the pasuk. Kamad leimar v'shachet es ben abaka lefnei Hashem, shaychet es ben abaka. The one who shechs the ben abaka yel lefnei Hashem. He should be in front of Hashem. So now, according to this lashon, right, shchita is not kosher bizarre. Shchita is not kosher b'tamei. It's not kosher. So our Mishnah obviously is not like Shimon Hatemani. So you have 2 days according to the first day, smicha no, shchita yes. According to the second day, shchita yes, no, smicha yes. Geschmack. Okay, for the next Gemara, a few yediyas. There's a mitzvah to be sent out of 3 machnos. If a mitzvah, he sent out of 3 machnos. 3 machnos: machna Shechina, machna Levia, machna Yisrael. The only one that's sent out of all 3 is the mitzvah. Anyone has tumah hayotzim igufoi has to be sent out of the first 2. The first two. In other words, you wouldn't be allowed in machna Levia if you had tumah hayotzim igufoi. Once you're at full yoim, then you're allowed into machna, the second one, machna Levia, right? But you won't be able to go into what? Into the Azora proper. Okay? So now, if you have a person goes and we know that a Mitzayra is going to have to put his fingers in. So there's a big waiver over here because Mitzayra is Mechusa Kipara. He's at full yoim. He sticks his fingers in, his right finger and his right ear and his right toe. And even if you hold Bia b'migdash shma Bia, there's a waiver over here. So with that ideas in mind, let's begin. Reish Lakish. Tamei shehichnis yadei lifnim, a tamei who would put his hands inside. You were discussing what? A smicha, right? Right? Laika, he would get malchus. Shenemar, it says, B'chol kodesh lo yisiga. The pasuk says, "U'shloishim yom u'shloishes yomim teishev meitahara." It's speaking about Yoledes of Zachar, 33 days. B'chol kodesh lo yisiga, v'lamigdash lo yisavai ad meloisim meitahara. So we have a hekesh between what? We have a hekesh. It's Salmon. Says
Ula Amarish Lakish.
Ula Amarish Lakish. Okay, what does he say? Amula Amarish Lakish. He says that Bia b'miktzah shma Bia. Therefore, since we have a hekesh between Bia going in and the Gia, and just like so, Bia make the hekesh says Ula. It says b'chol kodesh le'siga makesh Bia and the Gia mani Gia b'miktzah shma Bia. If you touch part of something, it's like it touches the spashit the whole thing. Bia b'miktzah shma Bia. Eser v'ishya lo Ula. Okay, lomdish. Mitzayra shechal shmini shaloi liyos berev Pesach. So let's get this straight. The Mitzayra was chutz lamachne. He had the birds done in body shave. 7 days later he's coming. 8 days later, and on the 8th day he gets clean. On the 7th, 8th day he's coming. He's bringing 3 kabbanis. One of them's an asham. It's accompanied with a loik shemen. He's putting his right ear, right finger, right toe, and he's having the shemen and the blood put on those places. Now, let's say it's erev Pesach. So we want to do it because he wants to be able to eat the Pesach in the evening, and he's mechusa kippurim. He won't be able to. So this would be perfect. However, he got a problem. For raw keri boy bayoim. Now he's about keri. For taval, and he goes to the mikvah for his kriya. Now he's at full yoim. Amr chachamim afal pishein full yoim acher nichnois. At full yoim can't go into machna levia. At full yoim can't go to machna levia. Zen nichnis. Why? Mutav yavoy asay sheyesh b'karis. The carbon pesach is an essay that yesh b'karis. For yitche essay shein b'karis. What's the essay? There's a mitzvah essay to send it full yoim chutz lemachna, right? So it's essay doche essay. An essay that has karis, is doicha of Pesach, is doicha the essay of sending what? That's full yoim out of the Machna Levia.
Doesn't he have Pesach Sheni? Like, why does it have to be?
Pesach Sheni is only when Tumas Mace and you can't
Oh,
bring
not
it.
this, not this.
And also, it's you can't bring it here. It's a possibility to do it.
So why not?
We could do it. It's a possibility to do it. So Rabbi Yochanan Amar, the Torah afilu essay in boy. There's even not an essay to send out at full yoim. In other words, there's no issa. Shneimar vayamar yoshafet b'kahal Yehuda the Yerushalayim b'kahal Yehuda Yerushalayim b'beis Hashem l'fnei achatza achadasha. What does it mean l'fnei achatza achadasha? They were in the lishkas hagasis and they were machadish halacha. What's the halacha? Shechitshu by dvarim v'yamut full yoim al yikonis l'machna levia. In other words, if you're a bal keri, you can't come in. But once you're at full yom, you could come in. They made a gezerah, you can't come in. So that the mitzvah is at full yom, right? And you're telling me it's an assay to send them out. So the B'yachan is nishkan assay. This nishkan assay is full yom. It's not about carry. So Memela, of course, he can come and put his hands in, and in order to eat the Pesach, the Korban Pesach in the evening. Okay. Now, what's the kasha? Vi amid bia b'miktzah shma bia. Heichi mayel yodeh bebehoinos. How could it full yoin put his behoinos into what? Azara, edi v'edi asay sheyesh b'karisu. That full yoin can't go into as a machlevi can go in, but machleshchini can't go in. So why would he be able to do it? Bishleim, if you tell me bia b'mikzah shloima bia, so that the full yoin mat is not going in, and we're going to let it, and the asay of karis is we're going to be daicha the assay of cars. And Masha Enkain, if you're telling me that Bia b'mikzah shma Bia, that full yom sticking his hand is in Issachar. It's like he's coming in. And the Issa Pesach's in Issachar. So it must be that Bia b'mikzah shlo shma Bia, kasha on Ula, who said shma Bia. Amalei. So who's asking this kasha? Meisivi, I want to go back. Who's asking this kasha? Rabbi Yeshia. So Amalei, so Ula said to Rabbi Yeshia, metuncha. From the load, Rashi says, from the load that you're asking upon me, I'm going to varf tzurek on there. I'm going to throw it back on you. Shiny mitzayra, it's different. Hoyel v'hutel l'tzarata, hutel l'kirav. Since what? It's mutter for his tzaras, it's mutter l'kirav. Herzach guys, if you hold bia b'mikzah shma bia, how in the world can a mitzayra ever get a kapara? It has to be that Yehuda, right? It has to be mutta. So once he's mutta to put his hands and finger and toes in because of his tsaras, hutanami because of his keri, and therefore, so that's ulis teres teroshia. Really, bia b'mitzas shma bia, and really, it's full yoim would be chayiv karis had he put his hand in. But since this mitzvah has got a waiver to put his hands in, I use the hands, it means ear also and toe also. Hutanami, it's mutter also what for? It's mutter also for what? For the fact that he's about carry. But in Achinami, what's the main point in Kuda? That bia b'mikzas is shma bia. That's what we have to know.